Yo, 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 what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, here with the sequel to my point guard tier list, the shooting guard tier list. I know, surprising. If you want to see me do the rest of the positions, go ahead and comment down below, and leave a like and subscribe if you do enjoy. Like I said in last video, this is all my opinion. Guys are not ranked within tiers, I'm just putting them in the tiers. That's my sole form of ranking. I'll give a bit of explanation for each, and I'll let you know right away that this is a really hard tier list to make. There are so many guys at the shooting guard position that are so close, and so many of them are really young, so it's kind of hard to project where each of them will be. This is all just my opinion. Let's see how it goes. First of all, I got to change this last column here to rookies because I'm starting off with Jaden Ivey and Bennedict Mathurin in the rookies tier. I don't really know how they're going to play. I think both of them could have really solid rookie seasons, but it's hard to project on two guys who have never played in the NBA before and are going into the league alongside pretty, well-established lead guards in Cade Cunningham in Ivey's case and Tyrese Haliburton for Mathurin's case. It's kind of hard to project. It's my video. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave them in the rookies tier. Next, we've got Devin Booker, who is an MVP candidate. He was for a lot of last season. He made a lot of noise throughout the year, especially when Chris Paul went down with injury for a while. Book continued to step up in a big way. He's a great playmaker. He's a great scorer. One of the best shooting guards in the league. One of the best young players in the league. A top 15 player in my eyes. And he's a guy that, as long as the Suns continue to be as good as they are, he will be in MVP conversations for a lot of his career. Now, whether or not he wins one is a whole nother story, but he is a guy that can be in those conversations as long as the Suns are good. He puts up the production. Regardless of how last season ended, Book is phenomenal. Then you've got Jaylen Brown, who's going to go in the All-NBA tier. I think he's slightly below Booker, but he is still a player that I think has the opportunity to make an All-NBA team. He continues to get better. He becomes a better scorer, a better defender. He's one of the best two-way players at the shooting guard position. He was just the best player. Many games throughout the Celtics playoff run, him and Tatum would kind of switch off. Not saying he's better than Tatum because I don't think he is, but there were many nights where he kind of took that mantle, which is really impressive for a guy in Jaylen Brown. He just entered, Kevin Durant trade rumors earlier this offseason, and I feel like there's going to be a fire lit under him to kind of prove to people why, he belongs up in this tier. I think Jaylen Brown's going to have a great year as the Celtics try and repeat as East champs. Then Donovan Mitchell. We have a lot of great shooting guards to start off this list. He's going to also go in all NBA tier. He's like the main name in trade conversations at this point. I think he will not be on the Jazz anymore by the time training camp rolls around. Whether he's in Nick, which is probably the solution, or on another team, I don't expect him to be in Utah. I think they're starting that rebuild. And so Donovan Mitchell, we don't know what role he's going to be playing, but wherever he is, he's a really solid playmaker, a phenomenal scorer. He's got to up it on the defensive side, but all around, Donovan Mitchell can be one of the best players on a really good team. Colin Sexton's a tough one because he obviously hasn't played, since the first few games of this past season. We don't even know if he's going to be on the Cavaliers. I do think he will be, but for now, I'm going to put him in the good tier, which might seem disrespectful. He averaged 24 points per game just a few seasons ago, but I don't know what his role is going to be. Sexton, coming back into the fold, even if he's a Cavalier, he'll now be behind Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. They've got guys like Karis LeVert, who they traded for, Lauri Markkanen. There are a lot of guys on that team that can put the ball in the basket, can play different roles. So I don't know what Sexton's opportunities are going to look like. Plus, coming off a major injury like he is, he's going to start a bit slower. So I'm just going to be safe and put him in good tier for now. Jordan Poole, I'm going to put in fringe all-star. He just had a really good season. He was a guy that came off the bench for the Warriors for a lot of the year, and I think he will continue to come off the bench for them this upcoming season, which might hurt him a little bit in terms of this tier list, because if he was starting, who knows? Maybe he makes an all-star case on a Golden State Warriors team that's often in the spotlight and one of the best teams in the league, but I think being on the bench might hurt him a little bit. He can give you 20, 30 points on any given night. He's a guy that, can play make here and there. He can handle the ball. He's going to continue to get better, and I expect him to be, even if he's not an all-star at any point soon, at some point during his career, I think he will be an all-star, and he's going to be in those conversations for the better part of it. Devin Vassell, I'm going to put in the decent tier. Vassell is going to have to step up a little bit, with DeJounte Murray being gone. The Spurs don't really have an identity, so I'm just kind of unsure of the roles each of those players are going to play. I like Vassell's upside as a 3-and-D guy, but for right now, I'm just going to put him in decent. Tyrese Maxey, I'm going to put in fringe all-star. Maxey's a guy that was crazy efficient and stepped up in a big way last season when Ben Simmons, had that whole thing at the beginning of the year. The Sixers needed a point guard, and Maxey stepped up huge for them in just his sophomore season. Highly efficient, and he only got better when James Harden got into town. I love him and Harden as a backcourt. I think it's a really fun dynamic of Maxey being the guy that runs in transition while Harden's a bit more slow and methodical. I think Maxey's going to continue to get better, and he might even make all-star conversations, not necessarily make the team, but he'll be talked about in that realm if the Sixers are as good as I think they can be. For Herb Jones, I'm going to put him in good tier. Herb is never going to be a guy that wows you in terms of scoring, but his defense is incredible. I think it's only going to continue to get better, and on a Pelicans team that I think could be really good, Herb might make some all-defensive noise just this season. Jalen Suggs, I'm going to put in decent. He really struggled last season to score the ball, but he showed a lot of defensive and playmaking upside, which I'm kind of banking on here. I think also with the Magic having more talent, Franz Wagner going into year 2, Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter was showing a lot of signs of improvement towards the end of the season. You're getting Markelle Fultz back. There's going to be less on Suggs' shoulders, and I think it'll let him, kind of fall back into his role a little bit more. I think he's going to have a better season. Maybe I could put him on a tier below, but I'm going to show some faith, and I'm going to leave him in this decent tier. Paul George is going to be our second and final MVP candidate on this list, or actually maybe not, we'll see. Paul George is an MVP candidate though. Him and Devin Booker are the top 2 shooting guards in the league. By the way that I determined who was a shooting guard was, I looked up each team's projected starting lineup and just went with that player. So Paul George, of course, was an MVP candidate for OKC a few years ago. But last year, some of y'all might not remember, to start the season, Paul George was in MVP conversations. He was dominating. And so I think it's only respectful to put him up in this tier, playing alongside Kawhi Leonard and the number of mouths to feed on that Clippers team with, John Wall coming into town. You've got Marcus Morris, you've got Luke Kennard, you have Norman Powell, Robert Covington, Batum, so many different guys that can put the ball in the basket, Terrence Mann even. It's going to be hard for him to get his scoring average up, maybe to the level he needs to be in conversations, especially playing alongside Kawhi Leonard, but I do think he is capable of being an MVP candidate, so he's going to go in this tier. Then we've got Bradley Beal, who I'm going to put in all NBA. He had a really down year this past year, but I think he's going to have a bounce back year. There was that weird dynamic with him and Dinwiddie. Neither of them were really excelling next to each other. Monte Morris, I think, will fit Beal's game maybe a little bit better. You've got Kristaps Porzingis now in town. Beal only played 40 games last season. He couldn't really find a rhythm. I think he'll be better. I don't know if he averages like 30 like he did the season prior, but I do think he'll be really good and be an all NBA caliber player. Zach LaVine's tough. I think he could go an all-star or all-NBA. I'll put him at all-NBA for right now. It's hard because, like I said, so many of these guys are so young and they have so much upside that I don't really know who to put in what tier. I'll go all-NBA for the moment, but he might move down to all-star. Zach LaVine is crazy offensively. His defense, obviously still needs some work, but offensively, he can attack the basket, dunk on people, shoot from the outside. He can hit like 13 threes in a game sometimes. LaVine is ridiculous as an offensive player, and if he can continue to get better and improve, especially defensively, it helps the Bulls out a lot. Dinwiddie is going to go in the good tier. Like I said, he really struggled in Washington, but once he got to Dallas, he was much better, fit better next to Luka Doncic, and I think that he will continue to kind of find a role there. I don't know if he will start at shooting guard, like a lot of the websites I found said. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes off the bench. They put Reggie Bullock at the 2 or Tim Hardaway Jr., any number of guys that are kind of just like a 3-and-D guy, but most places put Dinwiddie at the 2 spot, so I'll put him here on this list. Then we've got Anthony Edwards, who I'm going to put in the... I'm going to put him all NBA for right now. I might move him down to all-star. By the way, this is just all NBA caliber. Like, all these guys obviously can't make the all NBA team, but these are just players that could be in those conversations. Anthony Edwards, I think, is in for a huge jump. I think he's going to quickly become one of the best shooting guards in the league. He showed a ton in the playoffs. He was absolutely hooping. Now they've got Gobert alongside Karl-Anthony Towns, D'Lo, Jaden McDaniels, Kyle Anderson, Naz Reid, a bunch of other solid role players off the bench like Jalen Noel. The Timberwolves are going to be really good in my eyes. And so I think with the continued rise of the team alongside Anthony Edwards taking the mantle as their best player, by some point soon, I think eventually he will be looked at as their best player past Gobert and Towns. Anthony Edwards is going to be a guy that is going to really hop on a lot of people's radars, and I think he's going to make an all-star game this upcoming year and maybe even make some all-NBA noise. Evan Fournier is going to go decent. He wasn't great for the Knicks this past year. He's in trade rumors. You know, he can put the ball in the basket here and there, but he's nothing crazy. Josh Giddey, I'm going to put in the good tier. Already one of the best passers in the entire league. His playmaking instincts are unreal. He was a great rebounder for a guard too, you know, playing at 6'9". He's got to improve the scoring, but he showed some flashes here and there with some solid mid-range jumpers. You know, his really... the main thing he was working on this past offseason, he said, was bulking up and getting better at attacking the basket. And if he can be a much better drawer of fouls and attacking the rim with a lot more strength, then it's going to open up the game for him and the rest of the team. Otherwise, I think Giddey's in for a pretty good year as an OKC fan, of course, but I'm going to put him in the good tier. Anthony Simons, I'm going to put fringe all-star. I think he's in that conversation with Maxey and Poole right around their tier. He had a phenomenal end of the season last year after Dame with injury, and then CJ McCollum wasn't in the picture anymore after the trade to New Orleans. He has crazy offensive upside. I'm really excited to see what he and Dame do in the backcourt together this season. Kevin Huerter is going to go in decent. He's just a solid 3-and-D guy. Pretty good pickup for the Kings. Gary Trent, I'm going to put in the good tier. He can give you a ton of buckets. He can get into passing lanes and get you some steals. He might take a bit more of a backseat as like Scotty Barnes and OG Anunoby improve, but he's still young too, so I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to make jumps. Karis LeVert, also going to go in the good tier. We're going to start seeing a lot of guys go in this tier, I can tell you that now. Karis LeVert was really solid last season for the Pacers. When he got to the Cavs, things got a little more murky as he tried to fit in. I think a full offseason and now a new year to kind of gel with the team will aid him a little bit better, but he wasn't great to end the year, so I'm going to put him here for now. Plus, you know, how is he going to play alongside Colin Sexton? If he comes back, we'll see. Seth Curry, I will also put in the good tier. Like I said, we're getting a lot of different guys with very variable skill sets in this kind of area. Seth Curry is a ridiculous shooter. He was huge for the Sixers last season, even had a little bit of all-star buzz just towards the very beginning of the season, but he was scoring the hell out of the ball. He's come a long way from being just looked at as like a role player to a highly valuable player for any number of teams, and Brooklyn is really going to love having him next to KD and Kyrie and Ben Simmons this upcoming season. Terry Rozier is going to go... I'm going to put him in fringe all-star for right now. I think he's going to take on a lot of the scoring responsibilities that are now left vacant by Miles Bridges, of course, no longer being on the team. I think Terry Rozier is going to step up. I don't think the Hornets will be good enough to have him and LaMelo be all-stars, but if Rozier is, dropping 22, 23 points per game, he's a guy that could get in those conversations. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is going to go in the decent tier. He's just a guy, once again, going to give you some solid 3-and-D play. Klay Thompson, I'm going to put in the all-star tier. I could probably put him on fringe all-star because he wasn't really the Klay of old to end last season, but it's Klay Thompson. I'm not going to put it past him to get back to all-star caliber, so he's going to go there. Jalen Green, I'm going to put in good tier. I think he's going to score a lot of buckets this upcoming season, score over 20 points per game, and be really fun to watch, as he continues to get better and fits that mold that a lot of people see him of being as an incredible scorer. Pat Bev, also going to go in good. I don't know if he does start at shooting guard for the Lakers. I think Russell Westbrook gets traded at some point, but he's a guy that I think will be... He's going to be a starter for the Lakers, whether Russ is there or not. I don't anticipate Russ being there, so I think Pat Bev will start at the point guard position, but for right now, that's kind of what he's being projected as, so he will go in the shooting guard spot. He brings some defense, he brings hustle, brings tenacity to a Lakers team that desperately needs it. Desmond Bane is going to go on fringe all-star too. Really solid defensive player, way more solid defensively than I think some people realize. A great shooter, of course, stepped up big for the Grizzlies in the playoffs. And over the course of this season, when John Morant missed some time, Desmond Bane was huge for them. Tyler Hero is also going to go in this fringe all-star tier, reigning sixth man of the year. He could probably start on any number of teams, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Heat keep him off the bench for some scoring. He's a guy that eventually I think will be an all-star and could be a starter, like I said, on a number of teams, but, he's going to make a little bit all-star noise, even if he is coming off the bench, being the Heat's, a lot of nights, their most consistent offensive player. Grayson Allen is going to go in decent. Once again, decent 3-and-D. And finally, DeJounte Murray, I'm going to put in the all-star tier. Going to play alongside Trae Young. He was an all-star this past year. Going to bring some defense and some playmaking to a Hawks team that needs it in both regards. Trae Young, of course, prior to this season being their main playmaker, really needing some help in that area. And now they've got some guard defense because Trae doesn't play a lot of that. So this is my tier list. Like I said, Zach LaVine could probably go down to all-star. Same with Anthony Edwards. But, you know, I'm going to leave them up in this tier. I'm going to go ahead and leave them. I think all of these guys are capable. Like I said, it is a really young position. You know, we see Devin Booker, Jaylen Brown, Donovan Mitchell, Anthony Edwards, Zach LaVine, DeJounte Murray, Jordan Poole, Tyrese Maxey, Simons, Bane, Hero. So many great young shooting guards up and coming. It's not as strong of a position as the point guard one now, but in a few years, it might be with the crazy amount of talent that is here. So this is my tier list. It could change if I looked at it for maybe 2 more minutes, but I'm going to leave it as it is. Let me know in the comment section below what I got right, what I got wrong, and if you want to see the rest of the positions. I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.